I'm reading Miguel's text when the news anchors start talking about citizenship ceremonies. The irony isn't lost on me. Babe, I'm a citizen! 3 exclamation points. Then a photo. Miguel in his best suit, the navy one I helped him pick out at Macy's 2 years ago, standing in front of an American flag, holding his naturalization certificate with both hands like it might disappear if he doesn't grip it tight enough. His smile is so wide, it looks like it hurts. In the background, I can see other new citizens, their families crowded around them, phones out, everyone crying and laughing. I'm looking at this photo from David's couch. David Hutchinson, Miguel's immigration lawyer, the man who made this moment possible, the man I've been sleeping with for 6 months. David's condo is 4 blocks from the federal courthouse. 4 blocks. I can see the building from his window, the same building where Miguel just took the oath of allegiance, where he just became the thing he's wanted to be since he was 16 years old, where I promised him 3 weeks ago that I would be standing next to him. You should probably respond, David says. He's standing in the kitchen in his expensive casual clothes, the kind that look effortless, but cost more than Miguel makes in a week. He's pouring himself scotch even though it's 2:15 in the afternoon. He'll wonder where you are. My phone buzzes again. Where are you? They're letting us go soon. Meet me outside? I can feel my stomach twisting. The TV is still on CNN, and they're doing a segment about immigration, showing footage of a naturalization ceremony. Not Miguel specifically, but it might as well be. I'm watching strangers become citizens while Miguel, my Miguel, the man I've been with since I was 18 years old, is texting me, looking for me, wanting to share the biggest moment of his life. And I'm here. I told him I had a dental emergency. Mrs. Patterson, one of my regulars, broke a crown. Doctor. Vance needed me to come in. Just for an hour, I'd make it to the ceremony, I promised. I even sounded annoyed about it, put upon, like I was the one being inconvenienced. Miguel said he understood. Of course he did. Miguel always understands. I didn't go to the dental office. I came here, to this condo with the view of the courthouse, to this man who's been in our lives for 8 years, but has only been in my bed for 6 months. I came here knowing exactly what I was doing, knowing the ceremony started at 1:30, knowing Miguel would be looking for me. I made this choice. I'm making it right now, staring at his text, unable to type back. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me tell you how I became this person. I met Miguel when I was 18. I was a freshman at Seattle Central College, taking my prerequisites for dental hygiene. He was 20, working at a Mexican restaurant in Capitol Hill, the kind of place where the owner paid half the staff under the table and everyone spoke Spanish in the kitchen. I came in with my roommate, and Miguel was our waiter. He had this smile, genuine, warm, the kind that reached his eyes. When he heard my last name on my credit card, he asked in Spanish if my family was from Mexico. We ended up talking for 20 minutes after our meal. He told me about crossing the border when he was 16, about his parents back in Oaxaca, about how he wanted to be a real chef someday, not just a line cook. He was beautiful in his earnestness. Everything meant something to him. The way he talked about food, about his family, about this country. It was like he saw magic in things I'd taken for granted my whole life. I was born here, a citizen by accident of geography. Miguel had to fight for it. We started dating a week later. My parents loved him immediately. He was respectful, hardworking, ambitious. He wanted to do everything right. He wanted to be legal, to build a real life here, to contribute. My dad, who'd come from Sinaloa in the 80s, saw himself in Miguel. My mom kept saying we were too young to be serious, but I could see her planning the wedding anyway. Miguel filed for citizenship when he was 20. I remember the day he decided to do it. We were lying in his cramped studio apartment in Beacon Hill, and he turned to me and said, "I want to marry you someday, Sophia, but I want to do it right. I want to be a citizen first. I want to be able to give you a real life." I thought it was romantic. I thought it would take maybe 2-3 years tops. It took 8. 8 years of applications and interviews and fees and lawyers. 8 years of anxiety every time he saw a police car. 8 years of missing his parents because he couldn't risk leaving the country and not being able to get back in. 8 years of waiting, of hoping, of being afraid. And I was there for all of it. We met David Hutchinson 3 months after Miguel filed. Miguel had been trying to do it himself, filling out forms at the library, but he kept making mistakes, missing deadlines. Someone at the restaurant recommended David, an immigration lawyer who did some pro bono work, who might take Miguel's case for reduced fees. David's office was in a glass tower downtown. Everything about it screamed money. The leather chairs, the assistant who offered us sparkling water, the view of Elliott Bay. Miguel was so nervous, he was sweating through his shirt. I held his hand in the waiting room and told him it would be okay. David was 44 then, freshly divorced, with silver starting to show at his temples. He had this calm, authoritative way of speaking that made you feel like he had everything under control. He looked at Miguel's file and said, "This is going to be complicated. Your visa overstay creates issues, but it's not impossible." He quoted us a price, $8,000 for the whole case. Miguel went pale. He was making $11 an hour. I watched David watch Miguel. Then he said, "I can do $5,000, payment plan, and that's including the filing fees, which I'll front." Miguel looked like he might cry. "Thank you. Thank you so much." David shook his hand. "Let's get you citizenship." That was 8 years ago. I was 18 years old, starting college, in love with a boy who wanted to be American. David was just the lawyer then, the man who was going to fix things, the man who was going to give us our future. The process was supposed to take 3 years. It took almost 3 times that long. First application, denied. Miguel had made an error on one of the forms, checking the wrong box about his entry date. David filed an appeal. Denied again, start over. Second application, lost in the system for 18 months, just gone. David couldn't get answers from USCIS. We paid the filing fee again. Third application, interview scheduled, then canceled. Rescheduled for 6 months later. Miguel studied for it like it was the bar exam, American history, civics, government. He could name all the Supreme Court justices, recite the preamble to the Constitution, explain the 3 branches of government better than most people born here. The interview lasted 15 minutes. The officer said he'd receive a decision in the mail. We waited 4 months. Denied. They needed more documentation of his continuous residence. We'd been together 5 years by then. I'd finished my associate degree and started working as a dental hygienist. I was making $58,000 a year, more than Miguel. He'd worked his way up to sous chef at a nicer restaurant, but he was still only making $42,000. And he was so exhausted all the time. The stress of the immigration case hung over everything. He stopped sleeping well. He'd wake up at 3 a.m. and check his phone, like the decision might come in the middle of the night. He stopped making plans more than a few weeks out, because what was the point? He might get deported. He stopped talking about the future, about marriage, about kids. We stopped having sex as much. When we did, I could tell he wasn't really present. His mind was somewhere else, worrying, calculating, afraid. I tried to be patient. I tried to be supportive. I went to every meeting with David. I helped gather documents, filled out forms, wrote letters to Congress members and USCIS. I put my life on hold because Miguel's life was on hold. But I was tired. God, I was so tired. The emotional affair with David started about 2 years ago. I didn't recognize it as such at the time. I told myself we were just becoming friendly, that he was being nice to me because I'd been such a big part of the case. It was after yet another denial, the 4th or 5th, I'd lost count. Miguel had shut down completely, spent 3 days barely speaking. I called David to ask about the appeal process, and he said, "Why don't you come by the office? We should talk strategy." I went alone. Miguel was working a double shift. David's assistant had left for the day. It was just us in that office with the view of the water. He poured me a glass of wine, expensive, from a bottle he kept in a cabinet behind his desk. and said, "I know this is hard on you too." That broke something in me. No one ever acknowledged that. Everyone was so focused on Miguel. Rightfully so, it was his life. But no one ever asked how I was doing, how it felt to be 24 years old and unable to make any plans because your boyfriend's entire existence was in limbo. I started crying. Not delicate tears, but ugly, exhausted sobbing. David came around his desk and put his hand on my shoulder, and I just lost it. I told him everything. How guilty I felt for being tired, how I loved Miguel, but I was drowning, how I'd put off grad school and moving for a better job and everything else because I couldn't leave Miguel when he might need me. David listened. He didn't judge. He didn't tell me I was being selfish. He just said, "You're allowed to be exhausted. You've been carrying this too." It felt like someone had given me permission to be human. After that, I started coming to David's office more often. Sometimes with Miguel, but increasingly without him. I told myself it was about the case, about staying on top of things, about being proactive. David always had time for me. We'd talk about the case, then we'd talk about other things. My work, his divorce, books we'd read, restaurants we liked. He was easy to talk to, sophisticated. He'd traveled everywhere. Europe, Asia, South America. He had opinions about wine and art and politics. He made me feel intelligent, interesting, like I was more than just Miguel's supportive girlfriend. He never touched me inappropriately, never said anything out of line. But there was something there, humming under our conversations. An awareness, a possibility. I told myself I was imagining it. It became physical 6 months ago. April. Miguel's case had finally moved forward. After 7.5 years, after thousands of dollars in fees, after countless denials and appeals and resubmissions, it looked like it was actually going to happen. David called to tell us the interview was scheduled for early May, and if that went well, the ceremony would likely be in August or September. Miguel was ecstatic. He came home from work and picked me up and spun me around our apartment. We'd finally moved in together the year before. Another thing we'd waited years for, and said, "This is it, mi amor. This is really it. We can get married. We can make real plans. We can have our life." I should have been happy. I was happy. Or I thought I was. But there was something else underneath it. Something that felt like panic. 8 years. I'd been with Miguel for 8 years, since I was 18 years old. I'd never been with anyone else. I'd never lived anywhere but Seattle. I'd built my entire adult life around his immigration case, around waiting, around being patient and supportive and good. And now it was ending. Now we'd get married and have kids and build the life we'd been planning, and this would be it. This would be my life. I couldn't breathe. I went to David's office the next day. I told myself I wanted to thank him, to celebrate, to hear the details of how the final process would work. Miguel was at work. He was always at work. David opened champagne. Real champagne, expensive, the kind that tasted like promises. We toasted to Miguel's success, to 8 years of perseverance paying off. David was standing close to me at the window, both of us looking out at the city. He said, "You gave him 8 years of your life. That's remarkable." I said, "I love him." "I know you do." A pause. "But you're 26 years old. You've been waiting since you were 18. It was worth it, was it?" I looked at him. He was watching me with these intense eyes, like he could see something in me I didn't want to acknowledge. And I knew in that moment that if I didn't leave right then, something was going to happen. I didn't leave. I don't remember who moved first. I remember the champagne glass being taken from my hand and set on his desk. I remember his hands on my face. I remember thinking, just for a second, that I should stop this. I didn't stop it. When it was over, when I was sitting on his couch straightening my clothes, my mind fractured and disoriented, David said, "Are you okay?" I wasn't. But I said I was. I told myself it was just once. A moment of weakness, of panic, of self-sabotage before everything became permanent. It didn't mean anything. I loved Miguel. I was going to marry Miguel. This was just, I don't know what it was. I went home and Miguel was making dinner, singing along to the radio in Spanish, so happy. He kissed me and said, 7 more years of waiting and we're finally here, babe. We're finally here. I kissed him back and told him I was proud of him. I didn't tell him where I'd been. I didn't tell him what I'd done. I told myself it was over, that it wouldn't happen again. It happened again and again. Over the next 6 months, I saw David 12 times. 13 if you count today. Always at his condo, never at the office, always in the afternoon when Miguel was at work. Sometimes I'd tell Miguel I had a late patient. Sometimes I'd say I was meeting friends. Sometimes I'd just say I needed to run errands. He never questioned me. Miguel trusted me completely. After 8 years together, after everything we'd been through, it never occurred to him that I might lie. I told myself so many things to make it okay. I told myself it wasn't really cheating because I still love Miguel. I told myself I deserved this after 8 years of sacrifice. I told myself it was just temporary. Just until the case was over. Just until I got this out of my system. I told myself David understood me in ways Miguel couldn't. He was older, more experienced, more worldly. I told myself that Miguel and I had stopped really connecting years ago, that we'd become more like partners in immigration paperwork than actual lovers. I told myself the relationship had been on hold for so long that this didn't count as betraying it. None of that was true. But I told myself anyway, David never promised me anything. He never said he loved me. He never talked about leaving his life for me or being together after Miguel's case was done. We didn't talk about the future at all. We just existed in this separate space, these stolen afternoons, this thing that had nothing to do with real life. I think part of me knew he wasn't invested in me. Not really. I was a distraction, a complication, maybe a midlife crisis. But acknowledging that would mean acknowledging what I was throwing away, so I didn't. The worst part is that Miguel's case was going well. The interview in May went perfectly. Miguel answered every question correctly, brought every document they asked for. The officer told him he'd passed, that he should expect his ceremony notice within a few months. Miguel came home that day radiant. He called his parents in Oaxaca and told them their son was going to be an American citizen. His mother cried. His father said he was proud. Miguel held the phone out to me, and they thanked me for standing by their son, for being such a good partner, for helping him achieve his dream. I smiled and said it was my honor. Then I went to the bathroom and threw up. That night, Miguel and I had sex for the first time in months. He was present, really present, in a way he hadn't been in years. He touched me like he was remembering me, like he'd been away and just come home. Afterward, he held me and said, "I'm going to make up for these 8 years. I'm going to give you everything. I'm going to be the husband you deserve." I cried. He thought it was because I was happy. The ceremony notice came in July, August 19th, 1:30 p.m., at the federal courthouse downtown. Miguel was so excited he couldn't stand still. He called everyone, his family, our friends, his coworkers. He kept looking at the notice like he couldn't believe it was real. "You'll be there, right?" he asked me. We were in our apartment, in the kitchen. He was making dinner, something elaborate because he always cooked when he was happy. "I know you have work, but you can get off early?" "Of course I'll be there," I said. I wouldn't miss it for anything. I meant it when I said it. I really did. 3 weeks before the ceremony, David mentioned that he was going to be at the courthouse that day too. He had another client with a ceremony at the same time. "Maybe I'll see you there," he said. We were at his condo. I told Miguel I was getting lunch with a friend from work. "Maybe," I said. 2 weeks before, David said his client had to reschedule. He wouldn't be at the courthouse after all. "Probably better that way," he said. "Might be awkward." I didn't ask what he meant by that. 1 week before, Miguel showed me the suit he was going to wear, asked if it looked okay, if I thought he should get a haircut. He was nervous, excited, barely sleeping. He'd taken the day off work. He'd never taken a day off work, not in 8 years. But this was different. This was everything. 3 days before, David asked what I was doing the day of the ceremony. I said I'd be at the courthouse, obviously. He said, "Come over after, celebrate with me. I want to toast to the case being over." I should have said no. I knew I should say no. "Okay," I said. After. The night before. Miguel couldn't sleep. We were lying in bed, and he kept talking about what it would mean to be a citizen, to vote, to travel, to never be afraid of being deported, to marry me without worrying about green card implications, to sponsor his parents to visit. "My mom can meet you," he said. "Really meet you, not just on the phone. She can be at our wedding. Sophia, we can have our wedding." He rolled over and looked at me in the dark. "Thank you for waiting. Thank you for not giving up on me. I know it's been hard. I know I've been difficult to be with these past few years, but it's almost over. We can finally start our real life." I kissed him. I told him I loved him. I told him I was proud of him. I told him I'd see him at the courthouse. The morning of the ceremony, I woke up with a plan to actually go. I was going to go to the courthouse, watch Miguel take the oath, celebrate with him, and end things with David. It had to end anyway. The case was over. There was no reason for us to keep seeing each other. This affair, or whatever it was, would just fade away, and Miguel would never have to know. I got ready for work like normal. Miguel had the day off, but I told him I'd meet him at the courthouse at 1:15. He kissed me goodbye at 7 a.m., said, "See you there?" and I said, "See you there." At 11 a.m., David texted me, "Change of plans. Come over now. I want to see you before it's really over." I should have said no. I should have turned off my phone. I should have gone to the courthouse early and just sat there, made it impossible for myself to leave. I told my boss I felt sick. I left the dental office. I drove downtown. I told myself I was just going to tell him in person that we had to stop. I told myself I'd be quick. 30 minutes? Then I'd still make it to the ceremony on time. I told myself a lot of things. I got to David's building at noon. He met me at the door. He'd been drinking already. I could smell it. He pulled me inside and kissed me, and I didn't stop him. By 1:30, we were on his couch. The TV was on, CNN playing in the background. Neither of us was paying attention to it until the anchor started talking about citizenship ceremonies, showing footage from a courthouse. "Isn't that where—" David started. My phone buzzed. Miguel's first text. "Getting started soon. I'm so nervous." I stared at it. David was watching me. Neither of us said anything. 1:45 p.m. "They're calling us in. So many people here. So many families. I wish you were here already. Hurry." I couldn't move. I was supposed to be there. I was supposed to be in that room with all those families, watching Miguel take the oath, watching him become the thing he dreamed of for a decade. Instead, I was 4 blocks away, with a man who charged him $5,000 to file paperwork, with a man who would never love me, who I didn't even really love. 2:15 p.m. The texts. "Babe, I'm a citizen." The photo. Miguel holding his certificate, grinning, an American flag behind him, surrounded by people celebrating the biggest moment of their lives. The TV was still showing citizenship ceremony footage. David was standing in his kitchen, pouring scotch, watching me. "You should probably respond," he said. I looked at the phone, at Miguel's face in the photo, at the text asking where I was. I couldn't think of what to say, what possible excuse I could give, what words existed that could explain why I wasn't there. My phone rang. Miguel calling. I didn't answer. It rang again. I turned it off. David said, very quietly, "He's going to know." "I know," I said. This was a mistake. He wasn't talking about right now. He was talking about all of it. 6 months of afternoons, of stolen hours, of this thing we'd built that wasn't real and could never be real. This whole thing was a mistake. "I know," I said again. "You should go," he said. "You should go to him. Maybe you can still fix this." But we both knew I couldn't. It was 2:20. The ceremony was over. Miguel would be outside the courthouse by now, looking for me. calling me, wondering where I was. In a few minutes or a few hours, he'd figure it out. Maybe not the specific details, but the essential truth. I'd chosen not to be there. I'd chosen something else over the most important day of his life. I turned my phone back on at 3 p.m. 17 missed calls from Miguel. Texts that progressed from confused to worried to scared to finally resigned. Where are you? Are you okay? Please call me. I'm worried. Please just tell me you're safe. Did something happen? Sophia? Please. Then, at 2:47 p.m., I called the dental office. They said you left at 11. You left at 11. And at 2:53 p.m. Where are you? He knew. He didn't know the details, but he knew I'd lied. He knew I hadn't had an emergency. He knew I'd chosen not to be there. I called him. He answered on the first ring. Where are you? His voice was flat, not angry. Worse than angry. Miguel, I'm so sorry. Where are you? I couldn't tell him the truth, but I couldn't lie anymore either. I just started crying. Are you safe? He asked, still flat. Are you hurt? Is there an actual emergency? No. Silence. Long, awful silence. Then, you weren't coming. You were never coming. I meant to, don't. His voice cracked. Don't lie to me anymore, just don't. Miguel, please, can I come home? Can we talk about this? Talk about what? Talk about how you missed the most important day of my life? Talk about how you lied to me? Talk about where you actually were? I didn't say anything. Who is it? He asked. Because there's someone, right? That's the only thing that makes sense. You weren't at work. You weren't in an accident. You just chose not to be here. So who is it? It's not, is it David? My silence was answer enough. I heard him make a sound, something between a laugh and a sob. My lawyer. You're fucking my lawyer. Jesus Christ, Sophia. How long? Miguel. How long? 6 months, I whispered. More silence. I could hear him breathing, ragged and harsh. I could picture him standing outside the courthouse, still in his suit, a certificate in his hand, surrounded by happy families, having this conversation. Was it today? He asked. Right now? Were you with him during my ceremony? I couldn't speak. Oh my God. His voice broke completely. You were with him while I was standing there taking the oath, and I looked at the audience to find you, and you weren't there. And I told myself you must be stuck in traffic, you must be on your way, because why wouldn't you be there? After everything. After 8 years. Why wouldn't you be there? I'm sorry, I said. I'm so sorry. Did he make you do this? Did he pressure you? No, Miguel, this was me. I made these choices. Why? He was crying now. I could hear it. Why would you do this? What did I do wrong? Was I not enough? You didn't do anything wrong. You're perfect. You've always been perfect. I'm not fucking perfect, Sophia. I'm a guy who's been so stressed for 8 years that I stopped being a real boyfriend. I'm a guy who put you through hell because I overstayed a visa when I was 16. I'm a guy who made you wait and wait and wait because I wanted to do things right. I know I wasn't easy to love, but I thought we were in this together. I thought you were waiting with me, not just waiting for it to be over. I do love you. No, you don't. Or you do, but not enough. Not in the way that matters. He took a shaky breath. When did it start? When did you stop loving me enough? I didn't have an answer. Don't come home tonight, he said. I can't see you right now. I need to think. Miguel, please. I became a citizen today. His voice was hollow. I've been waiting for this moment since I was 20 years old. It's the happiest day of my life. And I can't even celebrate it because the person I love most in the world betrayed me. The person I thought would be by my side through everything. You were with him. 4 blocks away. You were 4 blocks away, and you chose not to be here. I'm sorry. Stop saying that. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry doesn't make me not know that every time I look at that certificate, every time I think about this day, I'll remember that you weren't there, that you were with someone else, that I wasn't enough. You are enough. You're more than enough. Then why wasn't I enough for you to show up? I didn't have an answer. There was no answer. Stay wherever you are tonight, he said. Tomorrow we'll talk about whatever comes next. But right now I can't. He hung up. I sat on David's couch and stared at my phone. David was in his bedroom, giving me space or hiding, or both. On the TV, CNN had moved on to other news. The citizenship ceremony segment was over. I stayed at a hotel that night, not David's place. He'd made it clear I should leave after the phone call with Miguel. He didn't say it cruelly, just matter-of-factly. This thing between us was over. The case was over. There was no reason for us to keep seeing each other. "I'm sorry it turned out this way," he said. "I didn't mean for it to get so complicated." He didn't mean for it to get complicated. Like it was a business deal gone wrong, not a relationship destroyed. I went to the Hilton downtown and paid $200 for a room I couldn't afford and sat on the bed scrolling through social media. Miguel's cousins had posted photos from the ceremony. Miguel in the group photo with all the new citizens. Miguel shaking hands with the immigration officer. Miguel holding his certificate. In every photo, he was looking slightly to the left, like he was searching for someone in the crowd. Someone commented, "Where's Sophia?" Someone else, "She probably took the pics." No, I wasn't there at all. I went home the next day. Miguel had packed my things. Not dramatically. He hadn't thrown my clothes in garbage bags or broken anything. He'd just carefully, methodically packed my stuff into the suitcases we'd used for the vacation we'd taken 2 years ago to Portland. The only vacation we'd ever taken together because he'd been too afraid to travel before. He was sitting on the couch when I came in, still in sweatpants, unshaven, eyes red. The naturalization certificate was on the coffee table. "I've been thinking all night," he said, "and I keep coming back to the same question. Why him?" I sat across from him, didn't try to touch him. "I don't know. That's not an answer." "I know." "Was it because he's older, richer, because he gestured helplessly. "Born here? Because he represents everything I've been trying to become?" "No, Miguel, no." "Then what? Help me understand." "Because I've been going crazy trying to figure out what he has that I don't. It wasn't about you not being enough." "Then what was it about?" I tried to find the words. "I think I was tired, and I felt guilty for being tired because I knew you had it worse." And he was just there, and it was easy, and I didn't have to think about immigration or applications or waiting. With him, I could just exist for a few hours without all the weight of the past 8 years. "So you were bored. You were bored of waiting for me to become legal, so you fucked the lawyer who was processing my case." That's exactly what happened, Sophia. Don't dress it up. You got tired of waiting and you found someone who could give you an easier life. I wasn't thinking about it like that. How were you thinking about it? I wasn't thinking. I was just feeling. And I felt like I'd given up my whole 20s to this process. And I was angry about it, and that's not fair, but it's true. And David made me feel like I was more than just your support system. Miguel's face did something complicated. I made you my support system. I did that. I was so focused on the case that I forgot you were a person with your own life. No, that's not. Yes, it is. I can see it now. I can see how I stopped taking you on dates, stopped asking about your life, stopped being present. Everything became about the case, about citizenship. I thought I was doing it for us, but I was really doing it for me, and I made you come along for the ride. Miguel, you didn't make me do anything. I chose to be with you. I chose to support you. And then you chose to leave me. You just did it 6 months before you told me about it. That hit hard because it was true. I'd left the relationship in April. I just hadn't had the courage to actually end it. "Are you in love with him?" Miguel asked. "No." "Did you ever love him?" "I don't think so. I think I loved what he represented. An escape. A different life." "Is it over with him?" "Yes. He was never invested. We both knew it wasn't real." Miguel laughed bitterly. "Jesus, Sophia. You threw away 8 years for something that wasn't even real?" "I know." "Do you? Do you understand what you did? Yesterday was supposed to be our beginning, the start of our real life together. And instead, it's our ending. You killed us on the day I was born into this country." I started crying. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are, but it doesn't change anything. He stood up, walked to the window. Didn't look at me. I think you should stay somewhere else for a while. I'll keep paying rent here through the end of our lease in October. That gives you 2 months to find a place. I'm going to stay with my cousin in Tacoma. You're leaving? I need space. I need to be somewhere you aren't. He finally turned to look at me. I need to figure out who I am as a citizen without you. Because that's what I am now, an American citizen. And every time I think about it, I'm going to think about you with David. I need to make new memories, better memories. Can we try to fix this? Can we go to counseling or... No. His voice was firm. No, Sophia. You don't get to fix this. You made a choice. You made a lot of choices for 6 months over and over again. You chose him over me, over us, over everything we'd built. And then you chose him over my citizenship ceremony. You don't come back from that. Miguel, please. I loved you since I was 20 years old. I planned my entire life around you. Every decision I made, I thought about how it would affect us, where we'd live, what kind of work I'd do, when we'd get married, everything. And you couldn't even show up to the most important day of my life. He picked up the certificate from the coffee table, looked at it. I waited 8 years for this piece of paper. 8 years. And the first thing I felt when they handed it to me was sad. Because you weren't there to see it. Because I wanted to share it with you, and you'd chosen not to come. That's what you did. You took the best moment of my life and made it hurt. He put the certificate in his bag, started gathering other things. His laptop, some clothes, his favorite knife from the kitchen. The lease is in my name, he said, but I'll keep paying it. You can stay here or you can find somewhere else. I don't care. When the lease is up, we'll figure out the rest. I'll come by when you're at work to get more of my stuff. You're leaving right now? I can't be here with you. I look at you and I don't know what I see. Not the person I fell in love with. Maybe you've been this person all along and I just didn't want to see it. He shouldered his bag, walked to the door. I hope it was worth it, he said. I hope those afternoons with David were worth 8 years with me. Then he left. That was 13 months ago. I'm 27 now. I still live in Seattle, in a different apartment. Cheaper, smaller, farther from downtown. I'm still a dental hygienist at the same office. Same job, same routine, same life. Except Miguel isn't in it. The divorce was finalized in February. I signed the papers at a Starbucks. Miguel's lawyer emailed them to me. And that was it. 8 years together, ended with a PDF and a digital signature. Miguel never spoke to me again after that day he left. Everything went through lawyers, brief and businesslike. David moved to a different firm 3 months after the ceremony. I heard through mutual acquaintances that he's dating someone new, a paralegal, mid-30s, no complications. I saw them once at a restaurant downtown. He didn't see me, or he pretended not to. Either way, he kept walking. He never loved me. I don't think he ever even really liked me. I was just something to do, someone to pass the time with. The moment things got complicated, he was done. I'd convinced myself that what we had was special, that he understood me in some profound way, but I was just another case file that closed. Miguel left Seattle in March. I found out through Instagram he'd blocked me on everything, but I could still see his cousin's posts. He'd moved to Portland, working as head chef at a Mexican restaurant that got written up in the Oregonian. In the photos, he looked good, healthy, happy. He'd cut his hair differently, grown a beard. He looked like someone who'd survived something. 6 months ago, I saw he was engaged. A woman named Carmen, she's from Oaxaca, came to the US 5 years ago, became a citizen 2 years ago. They met at a citizenship support group. In the photos, she's looking at him like he's the most important person in the world. They got married in October, small ceremony. His parents came from Mexico. Their first visit to the US. His mom got a tourist visa because Miguel could sponsor her now because he's a citizen. His dad stood next to him in photos, beaming. Everything Miguel had worked for, had waited for, had dreamed about, he got it all, just without me. Carmen posted photos from the wedding. Miguel in a suit, a different one than the one he wore to the citizenship ceremony, but just as nice. His smile was the same as in the ceremony photos, wide and real, except this time he wasn't searching for someone in the crowd. He was looking at Carmen, and she was there, and that was enough. There was a caption, "My husband, my American husband, 8 months together and forever to go." 8 months. He found someone, fell in love, and got married in less time than I'd been sleeping with David. I looked at those photos for hours. I looked at Miguel's face and tried to find some trace of the man I'd known for 8 years. He was there, but different, lighter. Like he'd been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. I did that to him. I made loving me heavy. And then I made losing me a relief. I tried dating for a while after the divorce. A few apps, a few dinners, a few awkward conversations where I had to explain that I was recently divorced at 27. Most guys didn't ask why. The ones who did got a sanitized version, grew apart, wanted different things, the usual lines. I never told them the truth. That I'd destroyed a good man on the most important day of his life. That I'd been with someone else while he was achieving his dream. That I'd thrown away 8 years for 6 months of afternoons that meant nothing. No one wants to date that person. I sabotaged one promising relationship by showing up at the guy's work without telling him I was coming. I convinced myself I was being spontaneous, romantic, but really, I was testing him. Seeing if he was where he said he'd be, doing what he said he'd do, checking for lies. He broke up with me after that, said I had trust issues, which was funny in a horrible way. I'm the one who can't be trusted, but I'm terrified of being betrayed. I haven't dated anyone in 4 months. I'm not sure I should be dating at all. I think about Miguel a lot, more than I should, more than I have any right to. I think about what our life would have been if I'd just shown up to that ceremony. We'd be married by now, maybe trying for kids. Maybe I'd have gone back to school like I'd planned. Maybe he'd have opened his own restaurant. Maybe we'd have traveled to Mexico together, finally, to see his parents. Maybe I'd be happy, but I didn't show up. I made a different choice. And choices have consequences. The apartment I live in now has thin walls. I can hear my neighbors fighting, laughing, living their lives. Sometimes I hear the couple next door having sex and I have to leave, go sit in my car, wait for it to be over. Not because I'm jealous of the sex itself, but because I'm jealous of the intimacy, the trust, the idea that 2 people could be together without one of them destroying it. I make $62,000 a year now. Got a small raise. Still a dental hygienist, still cleaning teeth, still listening to patients talk about their lives while I scrape plaque and nod sympathetically. Some of them mention their spouses, their kids, their anniversary trips. I smile and ask follow-up questions and pretend I'm a person who understands lasting love. Mrs. Patterson, the patient I lied about having an emergency with, found out what happened eventually. Small community, word gets around. She requested a different hygienist. Dr. Vance didn't say anything directly, but I could tell he knew. I see it in how he looks at me sometimes. Disappointed, but not surprised. My parents know the broad strokes. That I cheated, that Miguel left, that we got divorced. My mom keeps trying to set me up with men from church. My dad doesn't talk about it at all. He loved Miguel, saw him as a son. I think he looks at me now and wonders who I am. What happened to the daughter he thought he raised? I wonder the same thing. Sometimes I draft texts to Miguel. Long explanations, apologies, attempts to make him understand. I never send them. He's blocked anyway. And what would I say? I'm sorry I missed your citizenship ceremony because I was with your lawyer. I'm sorry I threw away 8 years because I was tired of waiting. I'm sorry I destroyed the best person I've ever known because I was selfish and weak and couldn't just be present in my own life. None of it matters. Sorry doesn't fix it. Sorry doesn't give him back the memory of that day without the pain. Sorry doesn't undo 6 months of betrayal, of lying, of choosing someone else. Miguel has moved on. He has Carmen, who was there when it mattered, who shows up, who loves him without needing an escape hatch. And I have this apartment with thin walls, this job I don't love, this life I built out of ashes of the one I destroyed. No David, he's gone, living his life, probably doesn't think about me at all. No Miguel, he's thriving without me, exactly as he should be. Just me, alone. 27 years old and already knowing that I peaked at 18, that I had something real and beautiful, and I killed it because I couldn't handle waiting, couldn't handle being someone's partner through hard times. I tell myself I've learned something. I tell myself I'm more self-aware now, that I understand the gravity of my choices. But I'm not sure that's true. I'm not sure I've learned anything except that I'm capable of being cruel, of taking a good man's love and treating it like it's disposable. Miguel deserved better. He deserves Carmen, deserves happiness, deserves a life where his citizenship is celebrated, not tainted, deserves someone who shows up. I wasn't that person. I chose not to be that person. And now I get to live with what that means. Last week, I drove past the federal courthouse downtown, just happened to be in the area, or maybe I steered myself there on purpose. I'm not sure anymore what I'm doing deliberately versus what I'm just letting happen to me. I parked across the street and looked at the building. Ordinary government architecture, American flags, people coming and going with briefcases and worried expressions. Somewhere in there, in one of those courtrooms, Miguel stood 13 months ago and raised his right hand and pledged allegiance. And I was 4 blocks away, making the worst choice of my life. I sat in my car and tried to imagine what it would have been like if I'd been there, if I'd watched him take the oath, if I'd been the first person he hugged afterward, certificate in hand, both of us crying, 8 years of waiting finally over. If we'd gone to dinner to celebrate, if we'd come home together and made love as equals, both of us Americans, both of us free, both of us with our whole lives ahead. That life existed, it was real, it was possible, it was waiting for me. I just chose not to show up for it. I drove home and poured a glass of wine. Cheap wine, not the expensive kind David used to serve. And I pulled up Miguel's Instagram one more time. Carmen had posted a new photo. Miguel in their kitchen, cooking, laughing at something off camera. Caption, "My love makes the best mole. Learned from his mama who's visiting." Life is good. His mom was visiting. Miguel got to introduce Carmen to his mother. They were cooking together, building traditions, living the life he'd always wanted. I'm happy for him. I think I actually mean that. He deserves every good thing. He deserves a partner who shows up, who's present, who doesn't treat his love like a burden. But I also ache with the loss of it, not just losing him, but losing who I could have been. I could have been the woman in that kitchen. I could have been the one learning to make mole from his mother. I could have been the one building that life with him. I chose something else. I chose easy afternoons over hard years. I chose a man who felt like an escape over a man who felt like home. I chose wrong. And the worst part, the part I can barely stand to acknowledge, is that I knew I was choosing wrong. Even in the moment, even sitting on David's couch while Miguel's text came through, I knew. Part of me has always known. I did it anyway. Sometimes I think about what I'd say to Miguel if I could. If he'd listen, which he wouldn't and shouldn't. I'd tell him that I'm sorry. Not the performative sorry, not the "I'm sorry you're hurt" sorry, but the real one. I'm sorry I failed you. I'm sorry I took your trust and broke it. I'm sorry I made the best day of your life hurt. I'm sorry I wasn't strong enough to just be present, to wait with you instead of waiting for it to be over. I'd tell him he was right about everything. I did get tired. I did want an escape. I did stop seeing him as a person and started seeing him as an immigration case I was attached to. I did that. That's on me. I'd tell him that David meant nothing, that the entire thing was hollow and selfish and I regret every second of it, that I've tried to understand why I did it and the only answer I have is that I'm weak and I was scared and I handled it in the worst possible way. I'd tell him that I hope Carmen is everything I wasn't, patient, present, strong. I hope she shows up for him every single day. I hope she loves him better than I did. I'd tell him that I think about that citizenship ceremony all the time. That I've imagined being there so many times it's become its own kind of torture. That I carry the weight of not being there every single day. But I can't tell him any of that because he's moved on. He's married, he's happy, and me showing up in his life again, even just to apologize, would be another selfish act. Another moment of making it about me instead of him. So I don't. I stay here, in this apartment, living this smaller life, carrying this knowledge about who I am. I saw David 2 months ago. Random encounter at a coffee shop downtown. He was with the woman I'd seen him with before, the paralegal. They were laughing about something, comfortable with each other. He saw me. Our eyes met for a second. I waited for him to come over, say something, acknowledge what we'd done, what we'd destroyed. He turned back to his girlfriend and kept talking. Like I wasn't there. Like I'd never been there. And I realized that's who I am to him. Nothing. A mistake he made, a complication he dealt with and moved past. He's not haunted by what happened. He doesn't think about Miguel taking his citizenship oath while we were together. He doesn't carry the weight of it. I'm carrying it alone. Because it's mine to carry. I made the choices. I told the lies. I missed the ceremony. I broke Miguel's heart. I destroyed 8 years. David was just the mechanism. I'm the one who pulled the trigger. I'm 27 years old. I should have my whole life ahead of me. That's what people say when they hear how old I am. You're so young. You have time. You'll meet someone new. But I don't feel young. I feel ancient. I feel like I've already lived my whole life and fucked it up irreparably. Miguel was my person. The person I was supposed to build a life with. And I threw him away. Not for something better, not even for something real. For afternoons that meant nothing with a man who never cared. I look at couples now and I wonder if they know how fragile it is. How easy it is to break something that took years to build. One choice, one afternoon, one lie. That's all it takes. Miguel spent 8 years fighting to become an American citizen. 8 years of applications, rejections, stress, fear. And he made it. He did it. He became exactly what he wanted to be. And on the day he did it, on the day he stood in that courthouse and pledged allegiance, on the day his dream came true, I wasn't there. I was 4 blocks away, making a choice that would end us. That's who I am. That's what I did. I destroyed a good man on the most important day of his life. I chose wrong, and I have to live with that knowledge forever. There's no redemption here, no lesson that makes it okay, no growth that undoes it. Just the truth. I had something real and I threw it away. Miguel deserved better. He found better. And I'm here, alone, living with what I did, living with who I am. That's my consequence. That's my aftermath. That's what's left when you choose wrong.